What's good, everybody? It's your boy Steph from the Hot Moving Podcast, and yesterday was very dramatic. I mean, the bombshell of all the firings at ESPN laid off their front-facing guys, to save $5.5 billion. I mean, just the list of names was very shocking, but not surprised because this cut was coming. And then you combine that with NBA free agency taking place, all the drama and the theatricals of that later in the day, and it's still going on now. But just a very odd day yesterday with so many different things going on. So it's very weird for ESPN to do this. I'm surprised they didn't wait till after 4th of July to do this, after kind of free agency kind of settles down a little bit. But nonetheless, though, so Stephen A. Smith has been quiet about this. I mean, he made a couple of tweets, but he hasn't really acknowledged the massive layoffs that are taking place. I'm sure he'll find an appropriate time when he gets back from his vacation to address it, if not on First Take, his show, or on the Stephen A. Smith Show on YouTube. But I mean, I think it would have been nice for him to at least say something, acknowledge, like, man, these guys I work with, I wish you guys the best, you know what I'm saying? Just something small. It doesn't have to be crazy, and you could address it in longer form. But no, this is typical Stephen A. Smith walking that company line. I mean, he's the ultimate company man at ESPN. They work him to death. You know what I'm saying? He's on the West Coast covering the NBA, East Coast covering the NBA, flying out, doing all this stuff for ESPN, and it's still underpaid. And they turn around and give Pat McAfee $85 million, deservingly so. But Stephen A. Smith, I don't think we'll see that kind of money on ESPN going forward. I mean, I would be shocked when this, because he did an episode about a couple weeks ago when Pat McAfee, he was talking about Pat McAfee's contract, because people were getting at Stephen A. like, hey, you saw what Pat McAfee got, so he addressed it, right? And he was just kind of like, well, I'm happy that Pat McAfee got his deal, because when my turn comes, in 2 years, then yeah, we'll see about that. I mean, what makes you think you're gonna get a sniff even anywhere close to that at ESPN, at least? You know what I'm saying? Nah, Pat McAfee is just different from Stephen A. Smith. He brings in a different audience. His numbers are just big. You know what I'm saying? And they feel that he can generate some big revenue. And I don't know that Stephen A. Smith in 2 years can pull the same kind of draw for ESPN to warrant a similar contract like that. Stephen A. Smith is a capitalist. You know what I'm saying? I can imagine, when he addresses it, he's going to be like, well, at the end of the day, this is a business. Ain't nobody job safe, yada, yada, yada. You know what I'm saying? I can see him saying something like that. Typical Stephen A. Smith capitalist mindset. That whole talk of, how can, I always wake up every day with two things in mind is, how can I make my bosses more money? And then how can I get some of that? Well, in this case, they don't matter. You can make them the most money however you want to, but they're not going to pay you. You know what I'm saying? I think see, the writing's clear on the wall, and he's the only last big whale left at ESPN that ESPN is kind of hesitant to cut, you know what I'm saying, to buy him out. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they still feel that First Take show brings in the numbers, and that's probably the only lifeline left on ESPN, especially in the mornings. You know what I'm saying? So, and considering that Stephen A. Smith is a little more colorful on his YouTube show, and he has openly supported former governor of New Jersey, Chris Christie, you know what I'm saying? Does ESPN like that? Obviously, the type of political affiliations or political direction they like to lean in. You know what I'm saying? It's just kind of like, Stephen A. Smith, is he becoming a problem? You know what I'm saying? They're in a bind. We like Stephen A. He draws us numbers, but he's talking wild on his, and I say wild, not really wild, but in terms of the way he talks on the Stephen A. Smith Show on his YouTube channel and some of the things that he talks about, you know what I'm saying? Does it align with ESPN? I think ESPN is looking to cut bait. They just don't right now. They just kind of need him as everything's rocky, because if Stephen A. Smith were to get cut, it would have been massive. It would have been like a death blow to the ESPN network. So they're just trying to buy time. In these 2 years, they're trying to see who they can prop up, who can bring in the audience. I think they're really hoping that Pat McAfee can really draw in the numbers and then go ahead and fizzle Stephen A. Smith out. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure Stephen A. Smith will land on his feet somewhere else or have his own independent platform or whatever, and he can get in more politics and stuff like that, because that's the kind of direction he's going in, as well as sports and whatnot, like he currently does. But yeah, so I'm very interesting to hear what Stephen A. Smith has to say about all this, but I'm sure he's going to give that typical capitalistic mindset, nobody's job is safe, and, we knew this was coming, you know what I'm saying? And he's going to talk from a position of power and whatnot and stuff like that, but it's just kind of you're not really in a position of power per se. ESPN just kind of needs you for now to steady the ship until they can find somebody else to replace you that's significantly cheaper. You know what I'm saying? Because in 2 years, I don't see ESPN re-signing him or even getting close to that type of Pat McAfee deal. Anyways, guys, let me know what y'all think about this. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe. I'm out.